Under the scorching heat on a deserted road, two stray puppies begged a stranger for help. What happened next will surprise you. It was late afternoon on a dusty country road. The sun hung low but still glowed warm, turning the asphalt into a shimmering mirage. Cars and trucks passed by without slowing, their tires sending little puffs of dust into the air. The landscape was a painting of golden hues and long shadows, a scene of quiet beauty that belied the drama about to unfold. Near an old rusted guardrail, two small shapes stepped out from the shade. They were puppies, thin and a little scruffy, no more than 7 weeks old. Their cream-colored fur was dusty, and a few burrs clung to their tails. They trembled not from the warmth, but from uncertainty. These tiny creatures, barely old enough to be away from their mother, faced a world that seemed impossibly large and indifferent. They had been resting beside their mother, but now their tiny hearts pushed them to act. With cautious steps, they moved toward the road. One later named Buddy stood on his hind legs, front paws pressed together, as if asking for something. His sister Luna gave a little hop, reaching toward someone who hadn't yet arrived. Their actions were both desperate and hopeful, a silent plea to a world that had so far shown them little kindness. Then an old blue pickup truck slowed. The sound of its engine, usually lost in the constant hum of traffic, now seemed thunderous in the quiet afternoon. The puppies froze, unsure whether to flee or stand their ground. Their instincts warred between fear and the desperate need for help. Inside was Michael, a man in his early 50s, heading home from a long day's work. His thoughts were far away until he noticed movement ahead. Two tiny shapes stood in the road, still as statues. He braked gently and pulled over. The decision was instinctive, made before his conscious mind could fully process what he was seeing. Something in those small, vulnerable figures called out to him, cutting through the fog of his daily routine. Stepping out into the golden light, he expected them to run away. But Buddy placed his little paws on Michael's jeans, while Luna's eyes searched his face. Without a sound, they turned and trotted toward the roadside, glancing back as if to say, "Please, come with us." Their trust was immediate and absolute, a stark contrast to the wariness most strays show towards humans. It was as if they knew, somehow, that this man was their chance at salvation. Michael followed. His work boots crunched on the gravel, each step taking him further from his planned evening and into an unexpected adventure. The puppies led him with purpose, their tiny bodies quivering with a mix of excitement and urgency. There, nestled in the grass, lay their mother. She looked tired, her head resting on her paws, her breathing slow and steady. She didn't shy away when Michael knelt beside her, she simply looked at him with calm, trusting eyes. In that moment, Michael understood the full weight of the responsibility that had just fallen into his lap. This wasn't just about to puppy it was about a family in need. "It's okay," he whispered softly. His voice, rough from a day of giving orders at the construction site, was now gentle and soothing. He reached out slowly, letting the mother dog catch his scent. She didn't flinch or growl, but instead leaned slightly into his touch. It was a moment of connection, of mutual understanding between two beings who had never met before, but were now bound by circumstance. Michael lifted her carefully into an old blanket from his truck, placing her gently on the seat. Buddy and Luna hopped in after her, their little tails wagging for the first time since Michael had seen them. The errand he had planned could wait. This couldn't. As he closed the truck door, Michael knew his life had just taken an unexpected turn. The quiet evening he had anticipated was now filled with the soft whimpers and shuffling of his new passengers. As he drove, Michael's mind raced. He wasn't prepared for Pets' small house barely had room for him, let alone 3 dogs. But as he glanced at the rearview mirror, seeing the puppies curled up next to their mother, he knew he couldn't just drop them off at a shelter. These animals had chosen him, had put their trust in him. He felt a responsibility that went beyond mere kindness to strays. Weeks passed. The mother, whom Michael named Grace Rue, covered with good food, a cozy bed, and lots of gentle care. Buddy and Luna never left her side, and Michael never left theirs. His small house, once a bachelor's retreat, now echoed with the sounds of paws on hardwood and the occasional playful bark. Michael found himself rising earlier, staying home more often, his life revolving around the needs of his unexpected family. Grace's recovery was slow but steady. At first, she could barely stand, her body weakened by malnutrition and the strain of caring for her puppies. Michael spent his evenings researching canine health, learning to prepare special meals to help her regain her strength. He fashioned a makeshift bed in his living room, sleeping on the floor beside her for those first critical nights. Buddy and Luna thrived under Michael's care. Their coats grew glossy, their bodies filling out as they left behind the gaunt look of neglected strays. They were inseparable, not just from each other, but from Michael as well. Where once he had come home to an empty house, he now returned to a joyous welcome, to wagging tails and eager faces peering out the window as his truck pulled up. The transformation wasn't just in the dogs. Michael, who had lived alone for years, found himself changed by their presence. He smiled more, laughed at their antics, and felt a warmth in his chest he hadn't experienced in years. His coworkers noticed the change, commenting on his lighter mood and the way he now rushed home at the end of each day. Now, if you drive down that same road, you might spot a little white house with a weathered porch. In the yard, Grace naps peacefully in the sunshine, her two grown pups beside her. On the porch sits Michael, sipping coffee, smiling at the family he never expected to have. The house itself seems different. Flower boxes hang from the windows, and a newly built fence encloses a yard that's clearly designed for canine enjoyment. On weekends, neighbors might see Michael walking down the street, Buddy and Luna trotting happily beside him, Grace following at a more sedate pace. He nods and waves to passersby, no longer the solitary figure he once was. The dogs have become local celebrities of sorts, their rescue stories spreading through the small town and inspiring others to open their hearts to animals in need. Michael's life, once defined by work and solitude, now revolves around his furry companions. He's become an advocate for animal rescue, volunteering at the local shelter, and sharing his story with anyone who will listen. The simple act of stopping on that dusty road has rippled outward, touching not just his life but the lives of countless other animals and people in his community. As the sun sets each evening, painting the sky in hues reminiscent of that fateful day, Michael sits on his porch. Buddy and Luna play in the yard, their antics bringing a smile to his face. Grace rests her head on his lap, her eyes full of contentment and trust. In these moments, Michael reflects on how a single decision, a moment of compassion, can change everything. Sometimes love doesn't come with a bark or a shout. Sometimes it arrives quietly and for small, dusty paws. For Michael, it came in the form of two desperate puppies and their ailing mother. On a road he had traveled 1,000 times before, but on that day, that road led him not just home, but to a new understanding of family, compassion, and the unexpected joys that life can bring when we open our hearts to those in need.